Morning. So we'll get started in a couple of minutes. We're just going to see if those last few people want to join the event. So yeah, just a couple more minutes and then we'll get started. Yeah, take a seat, guys. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, it's all good. Good morning. So we'll start our introduction to the Form 3L here. So this is the first one to arrive in Australia. Unfortunately, it is travelling around a little bit, so it's not ours to keep for the moment. But we're very excited to be the first in Australia to be able to present the Form 3L to everyone. So just run through what we're going to do today. Give you a bit of an introduction to Formlabs and who we are, and obviously Formlabs. For those of you who don't know, we'll give you a bit of an introduction. And then obviously we'll talk about the Form 3L itself, the LFS technology which drives the printer, what a couple of the beta testers of the Form 3L thought about the printer, and then finally the workflow before we go into a Q&A session. For those of you watching live on YouTube, you can ask questions anytime on the comments section, and one of our guys will be able to try and answer, or I will answer at the end in the Q&A session. Okay, so Formlabs, who are we? So Formlabs is a business unit, part of the company FreedSpace. So FreedSpace is split into business units that specialise in certain 3D technologies. And Formlabs is the business unit that focuses on 3D print and 3D scan technologies. So we're a value-added reseller for many different brands, Formlabs being one of our flagship brands. And we're very proud to have worked with Formlabs since about 2016. Come right up from the Form 1 Plus, and now here we are finally with the Form 3L that we have today. So Formlabs, who are Formlabs? Formlabs create reliable, accessible 3D printing systems for professionals. So they create really affordable and user-friendly, reliable systems, which is why they've sold over 70,000 printers worldwide, and their users have printed more than 70 million parts across a variety of industries. So Formlabs have used feedback from customers to make printers reliable and make resins that fill the needs of businesses across a wide variety of industries. So you can see a selection of industries here. Like I said, Formlabs make approachable, affordable, accessible printing solutions. So they do that focusing on software, hardware, but obviously some could say, one of the most critical things is the materials. So Formlabs have always been, trying to develop the best SLA print materials, but now recently have acquired Spectra photopolymers, so they can continue that development and continue to improve on that development, continue to deliver new materials, improve materials on their current selection, and also importantly, manufacture their materials in their own facility, so they have control over that manufacturing process. Now, across Formlabs and Spectral, there's 50 plus chemists and engineers working on resin development, and you'll see that they've got a really wide range of resins and across multiple different industries and different verticals. So here's a bit of a better breakdown of that material library. So you'll see there's general purpose, general prototyping resins, there's engineering resins, dental and medical resins, and biocompatible resins as well, and jewellery and more specialist resins as well. We'll come back to a bit more on materials a bit later on, but you can just see there's a huge range. New to the list is the Rigid 10K. That's just been released. Fantastic, super stiff material with great heat deflection temperatures. Elastic resin, although that's been out a little while in places like the US and Europe, it's taken a bit of time to get approval for Australia, so we're proud now that we have elastic in stock and we're able to provide that to the Australian market. Some other new resins that were added this year, Tough 1500 and Tough 2000, which mimic polypropylene and ABS-like material properties. Actually, this slide is actually slightly out of date. So the draft resin up there in the standard resins has actually been reformulated, so we're on draft V2 now. And draft V2 is 3 to 4 times the print speed of standard resins. Allows you to print in thicker layers as well as 100 microns. So it means you can print fast, so for fast iterations. Now that's important when you start to get to large scale, right, where print times take a bit longer. So what is Formlabs' mission? Formlabs' mission is to expand access to digital fabrication so anyone can make anything. So it means that small business, large business, anyone is able to make, prototype, build, and even production parts as well. So obviously what we're all here for, the Form 3L. You'll see here the Formlabs family lineup. So we've got the Form 3, which is the desktop printer, which has been out for around a year, and then the Form 3L, and you'll see here the Form 3BL as well. The machines look the same. I'll come on to the Form 3BL a bit later on when we talk about materials. But basically the Form 3L is a cost-effective, large format 3D printer that allows you to print without compromising on details. So it makes use of the same technology as in the Form 3, the low-force stereolithography, which is Formlabs' revised version of stereolithography. And what it does, it scales up to the Form 3L, right? So with a build volume of 5 times the Form 3, the LFS technology, which I just talked about, cross-compatibility of resins. So now if you own a Form 2 or Form 3, or even new to the system, you can purchase Form 3, Form 3L, and use resins across both systems. So cross-compatibility in resins, but also cross-compatibility in terms of software, dashboard, and things like that as well. Reliable print process, so lots of monitoring, but also remote monitoring through things like Dashboard, which is an online platform where you can monitor your prints. You can also monitor aspects of your printer, such as resin tank life, how much resin you're printing with your printers. Great for single printer and many as well. So you can monitor if you've got multiple printers, you can see which one's doing the most printing, how many parts you're printing overall. Really good information for a business to be able to run their print farm. So we touched on the LFS. So what is the LFS technology? So LFS is, as I said, low force stereolithography. And the main driver of that is this light processing unit that's inside the printer. So the light processing unit, or LPU, is housed inside the printer, and it houses all the critical optics for the printer, right? So everything's in a single enclosed unit that can be exchanged in and out of the machine. So with the Form 3, it's a single LPU, and with the Form 3L, it's two LPUs coupled together. So one of the things about the LPU is that it is modular, and so that's allowed Formlabs to be able to scale from Form 3 to Form 3L by adding the second LPU. The LPU contains a single galvo, which controls the laser, directs the laser. So laser's fired at the galvo, that points it towards the top mirror, and then it comes down to the really clever bit, which is the parabolic shaped mirror. And that parabolic mirror means that the laser is always perpendicular to the build plane, right? So it's always vertical. The galvo and this mirror system inside the LPU allows the laser to move in the Y direction, and then the whole LPU moves in the X direction, right? So we've got the laser firing, and then the whole unit can move in the X-axis. That means that you do get a vertical laser everywhere on the build area. So it's always perpendicular to the build plane. So that's really important for consistency around the build area, and the precision and accuracy you get from the round laser spot. So if you can imagine a laser that starts from a mirror system where it starts central, and then as it works its way out towards the edge of the build platforms, you'll find that the laser starts to ellipse, it no longer becomes circular. And that's fine on a small build area, but when you start to scale up, that becomes a big issue. So consistency across the build. The second important element of the LFS technology is the resin tank, and essentially the flexible film that is in the base of the resin tank. So the Form 3L tank on the left here and the Form 3L tank on the right, they look very similar, obviously just a different size, work exactly the same way. They have a flexible base, and what happens is as the build platform lowers into the tank, that film can move out of the way. So that means you're not getting a lot of force between the tank and the part that's being built, right? So it takes away some of the force there. Also, as the LPU unit moves across, it can squeeze out exactly the right amount of resin, so it sits, so it's got the perfect build area, and it keeps and maintains an even build area. And then when the layer's finished and the part needs to lift up, again that film can flex, and therefore you get less force again as the part's lifted up. So low forces mean better precision, better quality print, and better surface finish, which is really important. So benefits of the Form 3L. Obviously, the big benefit is the size, right? So when you start scaling up like this, it means that people no longer have to outsource from what would have been a part that was too large to print in-house. So there's a lot of people with desktop machines, and often they would then outsource, which takes time, costs money, obviously. But by bringing that in-house, you're able to print large-scale parts, like human-scale parts, like helmets or other things that you would normally be restricted to on a desktop system. And but you still get the same precision and quality you get off of the smaller desktop machine, but in-house. So intuitive. So it's got really intuitive touchscreen, which you can line your parts up, and you can also interact with the printer there. Gives you a lot of feedback about the printer. The preform software, which is the same from the other Formlabs technology, and that obviously allows you to set up your parts. The preform software is really powerful, and we'll talk about it a little bit more detail later on. Print around the clock. So as I talked about, cloud monitoring with things like the dashboard, and the draft resin, which will allow you to do faster prints. Now, faster prints is always good, but when you're talking large scale, that it can be really really a critical factor when you're talking longer print times, having something like the draft resin, so you're able to quickly iterate, quickly prototype large parts. That's amazing. And then the in-field repairs, because the LPU units are modular and exchangeable, it means that it gives you a much better on-site maintenance and easy maintenance of the machine. So we talked a lot about many resins and how they're cross-compatible across the Formlabs range, so across the Form 3 and the Form 2 and now the Form 3L. But also they're super easy to change, and I'll show you again later on how we change the materials out. But the material exchange system is really one of Formlabs' massive strong points, right? It's so easy to switch materials, even to top up materials when you need to. And automatic resin dispensing means you don't have to manually tip resin into tanks. It will automatically load resin for you and keep that level as you need it. So again, benefits of the LPU and the system is the smooth surface finish. So the Form 3L can print injection mold quality parts from a 3D printer that you can print in-house. And with the LPU always being perpendicular to the build platform, you get that consistency around the whole build area as well. High translucency is mentioned here. That's not necessarily that you would be printing glass or anything like that, but what the high translucency shows is how good the surface finish is. So if you get very good layer registration, and when I say layer registration, so layer 1 and layer 2 are perfectly aligned to each other, you get a much better translucency in clear parts, and you can see a clear difference. You can see the quality of the Form 3 and the Form 3L in the clarity of the clear parts they produce. So just quick recap of that. Obviously, huge parts, that's what the Form 3L is all about. Super easy to use, material library and everything is super easy to change, and the preform software. And then smooth surface quality and detail. But let's hear what some of the beta testers had to say. So I won't go through these, read these through, because they're actually available on the Formlabs website. So check out the Formlabs case studies and you'll find these. But essentially, these guys have Form 2s and they're a beta tester for the Form 3L. They're printing large parts, and normally that means outsourcing, which takes time, obviously. Or if they didn't have time, what they would do is print in multiple parts on a Form 2 and then join them together, which again takes a lot of time, a lot of labor time. So, I mean, the main benefits for these guys that they found was that they could get the same quality that they could from outsourcing, so still smooth parts, high quality parts, but be able to produce it in-house in a fraction of the time and save themselves a lot of turnaround time in that iteration of prototypes. And I'm sure we've all been there, done a prototype, you get it back, and there needs to be a change straight away. Obviously, that's a lot of wasted time when you're doing outsourcing. If you can bring that in-house, you can make that turnaround much, much quicker. Next, beta tester Black Diamond, so design climbing equipment and things like that. So you'll see some examples of their stuff in a second. Oh, you can see the shovel in the picture here. The main takeaway from this was that, again, for large parts, they were having to outsource. But by bringing it in and being able to print it themselves for a large-scale part, they worked out there was about an 80% cost reduction in printing in-house with the Form 3L over outsourcing to a service bureau. So we'll go through the workflow for the Form 3L. So this is the same for the Form 3, the Form 3L, it's all the same. But there's 5 main stages of the workflow. So first one is produce a 3D file. Now that's probably the hardest part for most people. You know, obviously if you're a skilled designer already, it might be the easy part, but you know, getting the CAD model in the first place, that's really for me, that's the most difficult part of the process, because Formlabs make everything else the easy part, right? So choose your material. So again, we've got the huge material range here. And as I pointed out, we've got materials that mimic things like polypropylene, ABS, HDPE. You've got rubber-like materials, rigid for stiff materials. So even the 4000 is incredibly stiff. It's a glass-filled material, so very low creep. You've got high temperature, which you can use to print, say, injection mold inserts and things like that. Standard resins for lots of prototyping, and then specialist resins for things like jewellery or medical. So first thing obviously is to choose your material. This is where I can explain the difference between the Form 3L and the Form 3B. So the Form 3B, the B stands for biocompatible. So the Form 3B is open to all materials, including the biocompatible materials. The Form 3L doesn't have access to those biocompatible materials. So for general engineering applications, you would be looking generally at the Form 3L. Obviously, if you are working in a medical field or biomedical field and you need those biomaterials, that's when the Form 3BL would come into its own. So once we've chosen our material, we've got our CAD model, we would obviously load this into the print preparation software. For Formlabs, that software is called Preform. It's free to download. It's super easy to use. You definitely don't need any specialized training for it. So I encourage you to download it if you're interested in using the printers. Download it and have a play. So the software is, like I say, very intuitive, very easy to use. It allows you to load your models in, move them around on the build platform. What I really like about the Preform software is it's got everything from a one-click print option, which means that someone who's never printed before can load a file in, hit the one-click print, and the software will do all the work for you. But it's also got tools in there to be able to get in for more advanced applications. So as your understanding of the process grows, you can do more and more with the parts in the software, right? So, for example, you can edit the density, touch size of the supports. You can move the supports where you want. You can obviously orientate your parts to be the best for your printing application. And so it caters for everyone from very beginner to advanced. Once you've prepared your model in Preform, you send that to the printer, and then that's where you'd use the printer setup. So to set up your printer, it's super easy. Let's open this up. So we've obviously got a part printed on here, which we would need to take out and process. So I'll talk about post-processing in a second, but we can take the build platform out. We can take the resin tank out. So see here, you can take the resin tank out. So if you wanted to change material, you can swap this tank over. So you could put it away in its box down here like this, and then you can put the new tank in. If you're using the same material, you don't have to change your tank. It's only if you wanted to swap the material over that you would want to change your tank. Put the build platform in, ready for printing. So you can put the build plate back in for printing, and then super easy, quick change of materials. So in the Form 3L, you've actually got 2 material slots. Materials are in cartridges like this, so it's literally, you load the cartridge in, and the machine will tell you there's a cartridge loaded. So on here, we can now see that we've got tank inserted. Those on YouTube probably can't see this screen in detail here, but it tells us that we've got material loaded, we've got tank loaded, we've got build platform loaded. So everything super easy, click and play, and it's all read, so the machine knows exactly what's going on. And then, of course, the final stage of the process is to print. So here are some print examples, print times and costs. So these costs are in Australian dollars. They are estimates based on some calculations with the files, but they should be a pretty good ballpark. So you can see here the black diamond helmet here takes around 40 hours, and you can see the price of about $220. This price is based on the resin and the resin tank usage as well. So it's trying to take into consideration the Formlabs consumables, not just the resin. Some other examples. So we've got the nozzles. That you can print in a batch. So obviously this is showing an example of batch printing of multiple parts. Again, large parts, large flat objects. And then finally, again, a multi-part build platform, again with some examples of time and print costs. So here's just an example to show the quality that scales up from the Form 3 to the Form 3L. So the small Godzilla here is printed in the Form 3, and you'll see you still get the same quality and surface finish printing the much larger version on the Form 3L. So once you've printed, once you've taken your parts out of the machine, you need to post-process. So with a resin-based technology, you've got resin, which is uncured and will be stuck to the surface of the part and to the build platform. So what we do is we wash that off. Now, normally we'd use isopropyl alcohol, IPA, or you can use other chemical like TPM, and there are some brands that do resin cleaning solutions already for you, but IPA is the most common. And the Form 3L comes with this kit. So you can see you've got some tools on the tray down there for removing supports, removing parts from the build platform. And then you've got this metal wash bucket, which you can hook the build plate into. It's got overflow to allow the IPA to flow over, so you're not wasting IPA, it's not spilling over, especially when you've got large volume parts that IPA is going to displace. So you're able to wash the parts in the bucket, and that will clean off all of the excess resin, and then the part will be ready to use. Now, there is, for those of you who are familiar with the Form 3 and the Form 3 ecosystem, with the Form 3 we have a wash and cure unit. So the wash automates that wash process. So one hand operation, you take the build platform, you put it into the wash unit, you press a button, and it will circulate the IPA, do it for the amount of time you specify, and then once it's finished, it will drip dry for you. So that is coming for the Form 3L. It is a work in progress. The release is scheduled for around midway through 2021. Also, for those, again, familiar with the Form 3 process, there's also a cure unit for post-curing your parts. So once they've been printed, washed, you then can post-cure to get full material properties. Again, there's a large version of that, so the Form 3, the Form Cure L will also be slated for release around mid-2021. Okay, so in summary, Form 3L advanced optics with the LPUs. So the two LPU units, the single LPU that's in the Form 3, doubling that up to allow them to scale the process. Hassle-free maintenance, so that LPU being modular means we can do more in-field repairs, means if anything goes wrong, it's easier to maintain. Cross-compatibility, so software, dashboard, and materials all work across the range of Formlabs printers, and then the integrated sensors that they put into the Form 3, Form 3L that allow you to print with more peace of mind that the print's going to work. You see here just a summary of the specs here. So 25 micron XY resolution, so incredibly fine detail that you can print through that through that the laser spot there. So laser spot size 85 microns, and the power 250 milliwatts. So that's a really powerful, very fine laser. So you're able to cure the resin very accurately. 50 to 300 micron layer thickness. So the 300 microns, you'd be talking stuff like the draft resin, 50 microns for a lot of the standard resins, and obviously the huge build volume. 2 resin cartridges, so it means that it hot swaps, so you don't run out of resin during a long print. You can load 2 cartridges in, and then that will constantly top up for you, which means that you can print those long prints over the evening or over the weekend. As you saw, some of those print times are fairly long, so you'll be able to print unattended over those longer periods. And here's a summary of the product line. So for those of you who are not familiar, the Form 3, which is the desktop printer, the Form 3L, Form 3BL, which is the large format version of that printer, the materials library we talked about, accessories in terms of the wash and cure, and then the wash and cure L, which are coming, the preform software, and then the Form 3 also has a biocompatible version of the printer, which is called the Form 3B. It looks slightly different over in the bottom right-hand corner there. Okay, so Form 3L and Form 3BL's pre-orders are open. We're taking orders here at ThingLab. The first batch is expected to arrive in Australia in the first quarter of 2021. And we have already sold half of that batch. So we do expect we will have sold that batch before it comes in. So yeah, if you are interested, if you want a quote, please get in touch with us, thinglab@freedspace.com.au. We do have some offers running until the end of the year. So just until the 23rd of December, we are offering $1,400 off the pre-order price for a Form 3L. So the pre-order price for Form 3L is $18,950 ex-GST, and you can take $1,400 off that if you place your order before the 23rd of December with us here. For those of you who might be interested in, say, the Form 3 printer, there's also a referral program. So if you own a Form 3 or you're interested in buying a Form 3 and you know someone with one, then we're doing a referral program offer here where you can, if you refer someone, they get a discount and you get some credit for materials for yourself as well. Again, that offer ends at on 23rd of December 2020. Okay, so I'll open it up to any questions. I don't know if there's any come through already from YouTube. One of my colleagues will relay if there are. But guys here, if you've got any questions, feel free to ask away.
The operating temperatures of the curing station, what are the operating temperatures of the curing station?
Yeah, so they create their own heat in there. So it's as well as UV, it's actually a bit of an oven as well. So it creates its own temperature. So it ranges, varied on the material. So it's normally 60 degrees. Some of them are 80 degrees. So you can find that information actually on the Formlabs website. It's really useful. It does change from time to time when they find, exactly, when they're optimizing the temperatures and length of time for cure. So there are those things available, but yeah.
My next question is on the practical side.
Yeah.
On using it. Collecting used resin or resin in the tank.
Yeah.
How does that process? How is that?
Yeah, so that's such a really good question. Something you didn't touch on is that the resin in the tank stays active. You can continue to use that. So when you finish the print, you don't have to throw the resin tank out or throw the resin out. That resin stays in there and can be used for the next print. So what the resin cartridge is doing is basically topping it up so it's always at an optimal level for the print, and there's always enough in there for printing. And when we change a material, for example, say we had clear in here, we were changing that to a grey, we'd take the clear resin tank, we'd put that aside, keep it out of UV, keep it out of temperature, and that's good to, again, go back into the machine when we need to use it, so we can swap those around.
During the print, is the bed, in between layers, is the bed being completely removed from the thin layer of resin, or does it only increase? I saw in the video it does increase in Z height.
Yes, it does.
Does it stay in the fluid, or does it completely?
It stays in the build part stays in the fluid, if that makes sense. But there's enough lift to allow obviously the new resin to flow in underneath, basically. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. All right. So if we don't have any more questions from online, we might end there. But please feel free to reach out to us, thinglab@freedspace.com.au if you've got any questions, or you can reach us on 0396878638, and anyone here will be able to help you out with any questions you might have.
I have another question.
Yeah, go for it.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. No, go on. We'll go one more question.
So we've discussed
Yeah.